Hello guys, I'm Loyan Sian and I'm students from SMK Sri Andalas. In this video, I will be playing as Richard Knight.
Hi, I'm Rika Narisma. I will be playing as Anne Schraff.
Hello everyone, my name is Sophia and I will be playing as Mrs. Hansen in this chapter.
Hello guys, my name is Darren Salratnam and I will be one of the narrators for chapter 6.
Hi, my name is Ashwini, as you guys know. And in this chapter, I'll be Mildred Wright and Blanche. So, hope you guys enjoy. Bye!
Hello guys, my name is Pavitra. I'm Peggy and one of the narrators in the chapter 6.
Before we start the video, I would like to talk about the main objective of this video. We call it as 3 C's. The 3 C's is the short form of Converse It, Convince It, and Comprehend It. Converse It means that we will let all of the members to engage in conversation using English language with proper pronunciation and good expressions. The second objective is Convince It, which to ensure others can understand through our voices and pictures, which help to understand the story more through visual learning. And the last one is Comprehend It, which we want to ensure Form 5 students can understand the storyline and prepare for their exam easily. Now, let's start on our video right now. Joyce Kilmer and I exchanged a handful of letters during the summer. I always sent a poem with his letter, and Mr. Kilmer always had something nice to say about it. Sometimes, he even made helpful suggestions for revision. Early in September, Mr. Kilmer wrote that he had at last arrived in France. All the fellows here are singing. Mr. Kilmer wrote, "We hope we are ready to do what we have to do, but we can't help but be frightened." My heart sank at the news. Last spring, September has seemed such a long way off. I had kept hoping that the war would end before Mr. Kilmer went to Europe, but judging from the newspapers, the fighting was far from over. Combat in the trenches seemed to be getting more brutal and deadly by the day. What if the battle was still raging after Gus graduated from high school? Would my own brother go off to war? Would I go someday? I tried to remind myself that this was supposed to be the war to end wars. But what if this last great war never ever ended? I also thought about my father's brother Roland. I could never really know how the tragedy of his death had affected my father. Mine, the loss of a son in another war, caused more grief than Park could bear. School started again, and Mrs. Hansen began the first English class with an announcement.
This year, the class will be putting on a patriotic program to help sell Liberty Bond, which help finance the war.
It will be great fun. I'll play the piano. Everybody will sing war songs like It's a Long Way to Tipperary, Over There, and Goodbye Broadway and Hello France. But here's the special part. Some lucky young lady will be chosen to play Lady Liberty and wear a long robe and a crown. And some fortunate young man will stand at her side. He will wear a soldier's hat and khaki uniform, just like our boys in Europe.
How will a girl playing Lady Liberty be chosen?
Every student in the class will write an essay. No more of that. I hope nobody imagined that this was going to be a beauty or popularity contest. Your essays will be entitled, How We Can Help the War Effort right here in Turtle Lake. The best essays by a girl will win her the part of Lady Liberty. And the best essay by a boy will make him our dear boy. The boy will hold the American flag, and the girl will hold the torch of liberty. Let's start working on our essays right now.
Richard thought it would be wonderful to play the part of the doughboy. He would enjoy putting on a real army uniform like blackjack Pershing soldiers wore. All the hard work during the summer had hardened Richard's muscles, and he thought somebody could take a picture of him and he could send it to Joyce Kilmer. For a few moments, Richard sat at his desk with a pencil in hand, wondering what to write. People in Turtle Lake and all over the nation were already doing lots of things for the war effort. People were getting by on less sugar, flour, meat and other foods so that more could be sent to the men overseas. What could he suggest that was not already being done? Then, he thought about his correspondence with a lonely American soldier in France. Richard remembered Joyce Kilmer stating that he took joy in the letter and poems Richard sent him. Suddenly, Richard had an idea. The students in his school could exchange letters with the soldiers overseas. This would help keep at least a few American men from feeling so lonely and homesick. It would also be a good chance for the students to learn what life at the front was like. Richard's essay flowed from his pencil. Now, he really wanted to win the contest, and not just to play the doughboy, but because he hoped the school would try out his idea. Over sack lunches on the school grounds, Mildred Wright and Richard discussed who might be Lady Liberty.
I bet Peggy will win. She always gets to do everything.
You write good essays, Millie. You have got as good a chance as anybody.
But as Richard headed back into the school after lunch, he overheard Peggy talking to Blanche.
Wouldn't it be awful if Millie got the Lady Liberty? She's so mousy. She would make the whole thing a joke.
Oh, Peggy, you'll win. Mrs. Hanson says the whole thing hangs on the essays. But she has to say that. You're the nicest looking girl in English class.
You are pretty too, Blanche.
But I'm too short. Lady Liberty has to be tall.
Well, it had just better not be Millie.
Millie was not bad looking, and she had a tall, slender figure. Why did the other girls have to say such mean things behind her back?
It's a good thing that Hannah Schimmer is a Hun. Even though she's smart and good looking, Mrs. Hanson would not dare to pick her. That would make a mockery of the whole patriotic idea. Richard was shocked. Although no kids seemed to be really close friends with Hannah, he had not noticed anybody harassing her for a long time. As far as he knew, no one had bothered that Shimmers or their property since the vandalism incident last spring. But obviously, those ill feelings still existed. A few days later, the students had turned in their essays, and Mrs. Hanson was ready to announce the contest results. By then, most of the students had already decided on the likely winners. They were sure that Peggy Mason would be Lady Liberty and Abner Lewis would be the doughboy. But Richard doubted it. Peggy was not much of an essay writer, and Abner was even worse. Mrs. Hanson had said that this contest was not about looks or popularity, and Richard was sure that he meant it. But who would win? With all the rivalries and bad feelings in the air, Richard was concerned about how things would turn out.
I'm happy to say that most of you wrote fine essays. You mentioned practical things that young people can do to help the war effort. After the two winners share their essays with you today, I will be posting the papers all around the classroom for everyone to enjoy. Now then, on to the winners. Richard Knight, your essay was the best submitted by a boy. Would you please come up and read it to the class?
Richard glanced around as he walked to the front of the classroom and took his essay from Mrs. Hanson. Several students looked disappointed. Richard was pretty sure they had hoped that Abner would win. Richard stood in front of the classroom and read his essay in a steady, clear voice. When he had finished, most of the students applauded slightly, and Abner and Harry did not clap at all. They just glared at him. Richard returned to his seat, and Mrs. Hanson rose from her desk again.
I think Richard's idea to write to our valorous young man at the front is an excellent way.
Then Mrs. Hanson looked down at the last essay in her hand. A murmur of excitement arose among the children.
Now, earning the role of Lady Liberty is the author of a very fine and moving essay, Hannah Schraff. Hannah, would you please read your essay?
Mrs. Hanson ignored the angry murmurs spreading to the shocked classroom. As Hannah Schraff walked to the front of the classroom, Richard thought she looked worried. For a moment, she stood nervously in front of the room. Richard's heart went out to her as she looked awfully alone. But in a brave, clear voice, she began to read.
President Wilson said that America's goal in this war is peace without victory. But what does that mean? How can a war end without one side winning and the other side losing? How can there be peace without victory? I think I understand what Mr. Wilson means. The enemy in this war is not Germany or the Central Powers, but war itself. The President wants us to understand that America and allies are fighting for one very important reason. We don't want war to be waged ever again. Millions of soldiers have already sacrificed their lives for this great cause. Who knows how many more will die? Many of us in this room have friends and relatives who have bravely chosen to risk their lives. My own dear brother, Otto, is among them. What kind of America will they come home to when this war is over? How will they feel to have fought a war to end wars, only to see the seeds of hate and war in the eyes of their suffering has been for nothing? We must make peace right here at home. We must battle our own prejudice and hatred. We must learn to care about one another, despite our differences in race, religion, or nationality. We civilians must learn to wage peace in our own hearts, not just in Turtle Creek, but throughout the world. Then, Mr. Wilson's precious peace without victory will have been won, and our boys will not have fought and died in vain.
Richard felt swept away by Hannah's essay. Every word rang true to him. It reminded him of what Mr. Kilmer had written in one of his letters about his beautiful dream of a world without war. As soon as Hannah finished reading, Richard clapped enthusiastically. Then he realized something terrible. He was the only student in the classroom applauding for Hannah's essay.